The alarm started at 0300 hours on Station Helios. Not the loud, blaring kind that meant danger. These were quiet pings, notification sounds that something was wrong with the data feeds. The night supervisor, a four-armed Veltare named Court, checked his screens and frowned. Every single feed from human-controlled space had gone dark-dotted first. Court thought it was a technical error. Communication relays failed sometimes. But when he tried to reach the human liaison office 3 floors down, nobody answered. He sent a security team. They found the office empty. Coffee still warm in cups. Screens still glowing. But no humans anywhere. Court's hands trembled as he expanded his search. The human quarters. Empty. The human ships docked at the station. Empty. Their belongings still in place. Their systems still running. But every human had vanished. Within an hour, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Every human colony. Every human station. Every human ship. All empty. All abandoned in perfect order. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 12 hours later. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Chamber on Central Prime, their voices creating a storm of confusion and fear. Nobody had ever seen anything like this. An entire species vanished in less than a day. Ambassador Velk of the Horthian Empire stood at the podium, his scales pale with stress. We have confirmed reports from 312 human settlements. All empty. No bodies. No signs of struggle. No distress signals sent. They simply left everything and disappeared. This is impossible, someone shouted from the back. You can't evacuate billions of people in 72 hours. Where did they go? Nobody had an answer. The tracking systems showed nothing. No massive fleet movements. No unusual energy signatures. The humans had simply stopped existing in normal space, as if they had never been there at all. A science team was dispatched to Earth itself, humanity's homeworld in the Sol system. The planet was intact, beautiful as ever, with its blue oceans and white clouds. The cities still functioned. Power plants still generated electricity. Traffic systems still operated, moving no one through empty streets. In Sol, the research team walked through silent neighborhoods where gardens still bloomed and fountains still flowed. They found a school where lessons were still displayed on boards. A hospital where machines still beeped, waiting for patients who would never come dot in one apartment. They found a calendar on the wall. The last date marked was 3 days ago, circled in red. Nothing was written there. Just a circle, as if marking the end of something. The team leader, a scientist named Vrex, examined a human home with careful attention. Everything was neat, organized, deliberately left behind. They planned this, he said quietly. Look at this. Food stored properly. Systems set to maintenance mode. They didn't flee. They left? But why? That question haunted the galaxy. Theories spread like wildfire. Some said the humans had ascended to a higher plane of existence. Others claimed they had discovered a new dimension and migrated there. The religious among the alien species believed the humans had been called home by their gods. The paranoids suspected a plague or an invasion that would soon claim everyone else. Months passed. The human territories remained empty but functional. Their automated systems continued working flawlessly. Defense satellites still guarded their borders. Agricultural stations still grew food that now fed refugee populations fleeing conflicts in other sectors. The humans were gone, but their legacy machines continued serving the galaxy. A young Quarthan researcher named Drev became fascinated with human belongings left behind. She studied everything she could find. In a colony on Proxima 7, she discovered a personal journal belonging to someone named Doyan, a human liaison officer. The entries were mundane at first. Work schedules, meeting notes, complaints about replicated coffee. But the final entries grew strange. "I feel it calling," Do-Yun had written. "We all do. It's time to go home. Not Earth, somewhere else. Somewhere we've always belonged, but forgot. The others need us there. We can't stay here anymore. We've done what we came to do." The words made no sense to Drev. Done what they came to do? Came from where? She brought the journal to her supervisor, who brought it to the council. Soon, researchers across the galaxy were searching for similar clues. They found them everywhere. A scientist named Haijin had left behind research notes that ended abruptly. Her last entry said, "The calculations are complete. We've stabilized it enough. They can maintain it now. We're no longer needed." What calculations? Stabilized what? Nobody knew. In a colonial administrator's office on Kepler Station, they found files from a young official named Tail. His final report was never sent, still sitting in his outbox. It detailed infrastructure projects planned for the next 50 years. Projects that would benefit not humans, but the alien refugees they had been sheltering. Resources allocated not for human use, but for others. As if Tail had known he wouldn't be there to see it. The pattern was undeniable. In their final days, humans had been preparing things for after they left. They had transferred knowledge, organized resources, and set systems to automatic operation. They had known they were leaving. They had prepared for it. But they had told no one. Admiral Court, who had first discovered the disappearance, stood on the observation deck of Station Helios and stared at the stars. Below him, 3 floors down, the Human Liaison Office remained exactly as it had been found. A museum now. A memorial to the greatest mystery in galactic history. "Why didn't you tell us?" He whispered to the empty space. "Where did you go?" The stars offered no answer. But deep in human territory, in systems that once bustled with human activity, strange things were beginning to happen. Sensors detected energy fluctuations that matched no known phenomenon. Old human facilities showed power spikes in rooms that should have been dormant. Defense grids activated in patterns that seemed almost like messages. Something was happening in the spaces humans left behind. Something was waiting to be discovered. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but humanity's absence was not the end of their story. It was just the beginning of understanding what they had truly been in the empty corridors of 1,000 human cities. In the silent halls of their ships and stations, machinery hummed with purpose, waiting, watching, protecting. The humans were gone, but their work continued. And slowly, the galaxy would learn what that work really was. 2 years after the humans vanished, the galaxy had settled into an uneasy acceptance. Life went on. Trade continued. Wars were fought and peace was made. The human territories, still maintained by their automated systems, became neutral zones. Places where refugees could shelter and species at war could meet without conflict. But the questions never stopped. And as alien scientists studied what humanity left behind, they found things that didn't make sense. Things that shouldn't be possible. It started with a simple observation. Dr. Melchior, a Zentari engineer, was examining a human-built bridge on the colony world of Haven. The bridge was 200 years old according to records. It had never been maintained during that time. It should have been falling apart. Instead, it looked brand new. Not just clean or well-preserved. New, as if it had been built yesterday. Melchior ran every test he knew. He took material samples. He analyzed the metal composition. The results made him question his instruments. The bridge showed 0 structural fatigue. None. Not the microscopic level of decay that affected all materials over time. The molecular bonds were as strong as the day they were formed. Melchior brought in other experts. They all confirmed it. Human construction materials didn't age. This violates thermodynamics, Melchior said, staring at his data. Everything decays. Entropy is universal. But this doesn't decay. How? Nobody had an answer. But once people started looking, they found the same thing everywhere. Human buildings across the galaxy, some centuries old, all in perfect condition. Human ships abandoned for years still functioned flawlessly. Even human clothing left behind showed no wear, no fading, no deterioration. The discovery sparked a wave of research. Universities devoted entire departments to studying human technology. What had seemed like good engineering revealed itself to be something far stranger. A team of archaeologists examining a human medical facility made the next breakthrough. The facility on Colony Prime had been empty for 2 years. But when a plague broke out among the Veltari refugees living nearby, something amazing happened. The facility's systems activated. Medical drones came online. Treatment bays opened. The automated systems diagnosed the plague and began synthesizing a cure. Within 3 days, every sick Veltari had been healed. The lead archaeologist, a researcher named Thel, watched in amazement as the facility worked. "We didn't activate this," she said. "It activated itself." It knew they needed help. Her colleague, studying the facility's programming, shook his head. "There's no code for this. The system doesn't have diagnostic protocols for Veltari biology. It shouldn't know how to cure them. But it's doing it anyway. It's learning in real time. Or it already knew. They tested it further. They brought patients with different ailments, different species, diseases the facility's database couldn't possibly contain. Every time, the human machines diagnosed and treated successfully. It was as if the facilities understood health itself, not just human medicine. Defense systems showed the same impossible awareness. When pirates attacked a former human colony now housing Korthan refugees, the dormant defense grid activated. Weapons platforms that had been silent for years came online. They didn't fire to kill. They disabled the pirate ships with perfect precision, then transmitted surrender terms in the pirates' own language. A language that shouldn't have been in their database. Admiral Court, now leading the investigation into human technology, studied the defense logs. These systems are adaptive beyond anything we can build. They respond to situations they weren't programmed for. They make decisions that require understanding, not just calculation. It's like they're alive. But the strangest discoveries came from studying human personal belongings. A team examining the home of an engineer named Minji found her design notebooks. They contained plans for a new type of engine that Minji had been developing. The team tried to recreate her work. The mathematics checked out. The theory was sound. But when they built the engine according to her exact specifications, it didn't work. They tried again. Same result. On the 5th attempt, one of the researchers, frustrated and exhausted, sat in Minji's old workshop and said out loud, "What are we missing? Please, we need to understand." A terminal in the corner activated. It displayed a new file, one that hadn't been there before. The file contained additional notes, written in Minji's handwriting, but never found in any search. Notes that explained the missing variable in her equation. With those notes, the engine worked perfectly. "The house is helping us," whispered one researcher. "It heard me and helped us." A military strategist named Grev was studying the tactical algorithms left by a human named Jiwan. Jiwan had been a brilliant strategist, known for winning battles with minimal casualties. Her algorithms were studied in military academies across the galaxy. But when Grev analyzed her victory at the Battle of Kilos, the numbers didn't add up. According to the data, Jiwan's fleet should have lost. They were outnumbered 3-1. They had inferior firepower, but they won with only 2% casualties. Grev ran simulations 1,000 times. Every time, Jiwan's fleet lost. Except in reality, they had won. She had information she shouldn't have had, Grev concluded. She positioned her ships in exactly the right places, as if she knew where the enemy would be before they moved. It's not good strategy. It's precognition. The same pattern appeared everywhere. A diplomat named Dong Yun had prevented a war between the Veltari and the Horthians by scheduling a peace summit on a specific date at a specific time in a specific place. According to analysis, if the summit had happened even one day earlier or later, it would have failed. Dong Yun had chosen the exact right moment. How had he known? There was no logical way to predict it. But he had been exactly right. An art exhibition featuring works by a human artist named Sung-ho revealed another mystery. His paintings were beautiful but abstract, colorful swirls and patterns that seemed random. Until a Korthan mathematician noticed something. The patterns were not random. They were mathematical sequences, encoded data. Sung-ho's paintings contained detailed star maps showing spatial coordinates that hadn't been discovered yet, places humanity had never officially visited. But Sung-ho had painted them decades ago with perfect accuracy. The Galactic Council met again, this time not in panic, but in wonder and fear. Representative Velk addressed the assembly. We must face the truth. Humans were not like us. Their technology wasn't just advanced. It was fundamentally different. It operates on principles we don't understand. And the more we study it, the more we realize they were capable of things that should be impossible. What were they? Someone asked. What were the humans really? Velk had no answer. But deep in the archives, researchers were finding hints. Old human texts, philosophy books, meditation guides, stories and myths. They spoke of potential, of inner power, of humanity's hidden nature. The texts were vague, metaphorical, hard to understand. But one phrase appeared again and again in different forms. We are the bridge between what is and what could be. Whatever that meant, the galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity had been something special, something unique. And their disappearance was not just a mystery. It was a warning. Because if humans had been maintaining all this technology, all these systems, all these impossible things, then what was maintaining them now? And what would happen when the systems finally failed? On Station Helios, Admiral Court received a report that made his blood run cold. Energy readings from human space were changing. The pattern was subtle but clear. Something was building. Something was coming. The human legacy was not just about what they left behind. It was about what they had been holding back. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A young Veltari student named Kess was writing her thesis on human probability patterns. She had collected data on human activities for the past 500 years. Trade routes, diplomatic missions, military deployments, settlement choices. Kess was looking for patterns in human decision-making. What she found was impossible. Humans were lucky. Not just sometimes lucky. Always lucky. Statistically, impossibly, constantly lucky. When humans chose a trade route, that route never had pirate problems. When humans settled a planet, that planet never had natural disasters. When humans sent diplomats to negotiate, those negotiations succeeded at a rate far beyond chance. The probability of humans being that fortunate by accident was effectively zero. Kess presented her findings to her professor, Dr. Haller. He laughed at first. Luck wasn't a scientific variable. But when he reviewed her data, his laughter died. The numbers were undeniable. Human outcomes violated probability at every scale. Small things like finding parking spaces. Large things like avoiding asteroid strikes. It was as if the universe itself bent to accommodate them. They weren't lucky, Dr. Haller said slowly. They were changing probability. Somehow, they were affecting outcomes at a quantum level, making favorable results more likely, making disasters less likely. Not with technology, with something else. The paper they published caused chaos in the scientific community. Half the academics called it nonsense. The other half began reviewing their own data on human activities. Every review confirmed Kess's findings. Humans had been operating outside normal probability for centuries. The question was how and why nobody had noticed. A historian named Vrel found part of the answer. She was studying military records and noticed something strange. Humans had fought in 73 major galactic conflicts over the past 1,000 years. They had always arrived exactly when needed. Not too early, not too late. Perfectly timed to prevent catastrophe. Vrel traced back through records, finding the same pattern every time. A crisis would build. Tension would rise. Then humans would appear, seemingly by coincidence, and things would stabilize. They were maintaining balance, Vrel concluded. Every time the galaxy tilted toward chaos, humans appeared to correct it. It wasn't coincidence. It was deliberate. But they made it look natural. More evidence emerged from unexpected places. A team exploring an abandoned human colony on Rigel 4 discovered meditation chambers. They had thought these were religious sites. But detailed scans revealed something astonishing. The chambers were dimensional anchors. They were physically connecting normal space to something else. Something beyond. The equipment was inactive now, but residual energy signatures showed they had been operational until the humans left. They were doing something in those chambers, the team leader reported. Something that affected reality around them. We found similar chambers in every human settlement. Always in the same geometric pattern. Always aligned to specific stellar coordinates. They built a network across the galaxy. A network that was doing something to space itself. A Zenib psychologist named Trev was studying human writings, trying to understand their mindset. He found the work of a philosopher named Kyungmin, who had written extensively about human nature. Most of it was dense and hard to follow. But one passage stood out. Kyungmin had written it just months before the humans disappeared. "We came to this galaxy as gardeners," the passage read. "We found chaos and brought order. We found darkness and brought light. But a garden that depends on the gardener never truly grows. We have stayed too long. We have protected too much. The time comes when the gardener must leave, so the garden can learn to tend itself. We will miss this place, but our work here is done." Trive read the passage 3 times. It sounded like farewell, like an admission. Humans had come to the galaxy with a purpose. They had been protecting everyone, and they had chosen to leave because that protection was preventing others from growing strong. The most disturbing evidence came from studying human children. A teacher on Colony Prime had kept student artwork from her class of human children. Simple drawings, like children everywhere made. But when researchers examined the drawings made by a child named Ariam, they found maps. Detailed, accurate maps of parts of the galaxy that hadn't been explored yet. Ariam had drawn them when she was 6 years old. She had labeled star systems that weren't discovered until 10 years later. She had marked danger zones that had proven to be unstable space. A 6-year-old child had somehow known the future. They found more examples. Journals from human teenagers predicting social changes decades in advance. Paintings from human artists showing events that hadn't happened yet. Humans hadn't just been lucky or skilled. They had been precognitive. They had been seeing possible futures and gently nudging reality toward better outcomes. Admiral, Court assembled a team of the galaxy's best minds to review all the evidence. Scientists, historians, military strategists, philosophers. They spent 6 months analyzing everything known about humans. The conclusion was unanimous and terrifying. Humans were not a normal species, Court announced to the Galactic Council. They possessed abilities we don't have words for. They could influence probability. They could see potential futures. They could anchor reality and prevent dimensional instabilities. They were not using technology to do these things. They were doing it themselves. They were beings of immense power who pretended to be ordinary. The chamber fell silent. Then someone asked the question everyone was thinking. Why hide it? Why pretend to be weak? A human recording answered them. It had been hidden in Earth's main archive, programmed to unlock when certain questions were asked. The recording showed a human man named Dong-Woon, the diplomat who had prevented so many wars. He sat in a simple room, looking tired but calm. If you're watching this, you've figured it out, Dong-Woon said. You know what we are, what we can do. We hid it because showing our true power would have been cruel. You would have become dependent on us. You would have stopped trying to solve your own problems. You would have waited for humans to fix everything. We came to this galaxy to help you grow, not to make you weak. Every civilization has potential, Dong-Woon continued, but potential needs challenge to develop. We protected you from the worst disasters. We guided you away from the darkest paths. But we had to make you think you were doing it yourselves. We had to make you believe you were strong. Because you are strong. You just haven't realized it yet. The recording showed Dong-Woon standing up. We're leaving now. Not because we want to. Because we have to. Our presence here has become a crutch. You rely on us too much. You need to learn to stand on your own. And there's another reason. His expression grew serious. Something is coming. Something we must face. And we can't protect you and fight it at the same time. You need to be ready. You need to be strong. The time for guardianship is over. The time for you to become guardians yourselves has begun. The recording ended. The council chamber remained silent. Outside, across the galaxy, the same recording was playing on every human-built system. Every station. Every ship. Every colony. Billions of beings watched and understood. Humans had been protecting them all along. And now that protection was ending, on Station Helios, alarms began to sound. Real alarms this time. The energy signatures from human space had spiked dramatically. Something was happening. Something was beginning. The dimensional anchors humans had maintained were failing. And reality itself was starting to crack. It started small. A transport ship traveling through the Epsilon sector reported strange readings. Space itself seemed to ripple around them. Instruments showed fluctuations in local physics. For 10 seconds, gravity stopped working properly. Then everything returned to normal. The crew thought it was a sensor malfunction. At WASN, T. Within a week, similar reports came from across the galaxy. Space anomalies. Temporary physics failures. Moments where reality seemed to glitch. Scientists tried to find a pattern. The anomalies were occurring in places humans had lived. Former colonies. Old trade routes. Sites where human meditation chambers had been built. The anchors were failing. Without humans to maintain them, reality was becoming unstable. But that was just the beginning. The true crisis emerged from somewhere deeper. Ancient beings, locked away in dimensional prisons for millennia, began to wake. They had been sealed there by powers long forgotten. Powers that humanity had been maintaining without anyone knowing. Now those seals were weakening. The first breach occurred near the old human colony of New Haven. A rift opened in space. Something came through. It was massive, incomprehensible, a creature that existed partially in multiple dimensions at once. It destroyed 3 ships before anyone understood what was happening. Weapons passed through it without effect. It seemed to exist and not exist simultaneously. Admiral Court ordered an evacuation of the sector. Military fleets converged to contain the creature, but conventional tactics failed. The being was beyond physical. It fed on energy. Every weapon fired at it made it stronger. Court watched in horror as his fleet accomplished nothing. Then something unexpected happened. The human defense systems around New Haven activated. Not the normal defensive weapons. Something else. The meditation chambers that researchers had studied lit up with power. They projected a field that seemed to push against reality itself. The creature screamed, a sound that existed in minds rather than ears, and retreated back through the rift. The rift sealed. The human systems fought it, Court said in amazement. They're still protecting us. But for how long? The answer came quickly. Not long. More rifts opened. More ancient horrors emerged. Things that had been locked away since before most civilizations existed. Things that the galaxy's current inhabitants had no knowledge of and no defense against. The human automated systems fought where they could, but they were failing. Without humans to power them, to guide them, they could only delay the inevitable. Worse, something was happening to the civilized species themselves. The Veltari, normally peaceful traders, became aggressive. Border disputes turned into military conflicts. The Horthians, always diplomatic, began making threats. Species that had coexisted for centuries suddenly couldn't tolerate each other. Old grudges resurfaced. Ancient hatreds flared to life. Dr. Melker, studying the phenomenon, made a disturbing discovery. It's not natural, he reported. Something is influencing emotions on a massive scale. Something is pushing species toward conflict. The humans weren't just maintaining dimensional seals. They were maintaining social stability. They were dampening negative emotions across the galaxy. Without them, we're reverting to our base natures. Wars broke out. Small at first, then spreading. The galactic economy collapsed as trade routes became battlegrounds. Refugees flooded into neutral zones, overwhelming resources. And through it all, the dimensional rifts kept opening. Ancient monsters kept emerging. Reality kept breaking down. Station Helios became a command center for crisis response. Court coordinated rescue operations and defense efforts, but he was losing. Everyone was losing. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. Then a signal came from Earth, a beacon activated from deep within the planet's core. A message in every language. If you hear this, things have gotten bad. This is a recording left by the human guardian Seogen. I died 200 years ago. Or rather, my body did. My consciousness was transferred into Earth's core systems to maintain critical functions. If this beacon is active, it means the situation is critical. Go to the following coordinates on Earth. There is someone there who can help. A team rushed to Earth. They found a facility buried beneath Sol. Inside, in a stasis chamber, was a human. A young man perfectly preserved, still alive. The chamber opened automatically as they approached. The man's eyes opened. He drew a breath and sat up, looking around at the alien faces staring at him. How long was I asleep? He asked in perfect galactic common. 3 years since humans disappeared, someone answered. Who are you? My name is Minho, the man said. I'm a guardian. I volunteered to stay behind. They knew this would happen. They knew you'd need help. He stepped out of the chamber, stretching. I have a lot to explain, and not much time. The situation is worse than you think. They brought Minho to Station Helios. He stood before the Galactic Council, the single human who remained, and told them the truth. The complete truth. Humanity didn't evolve on Earth, Minho said. We came from somewhere else. Somewhere outside this dimension. We came here millions of years ago because we detected instability. This region of space sits on a dimensional fault line. It's naturally prone to rifts, invasions, reality breakdowns. We couldn't fix it, Mignot continued. The instability is fundamental to this area of space. But we could maintain it. We could hold reality together through constant effort. So we stayed. We established ourselves as a normal species. We integrated with galactic civilization. And for millions of years, we held the line. We kept the monsters locked away. We kept reality stable. We did it so quietly that no one noticed. Why leave? Court asked. If you were protecting us, why abandon us now? Minho's expression grew grim. Because something worse is coming. Something from outside the galaxy. We detected it decades ago. A threat so massive that every guardian in the galaxy needed to go face it. If we stayed here to protect you, that threat would destroy everything. We had to choose. Protect this galaxy from internal threats, or protect the entire universe from external ones. You chose the universe, someone said bitterly. We chose to give you a chance, Mignot corrected. The truth is, you don't need us. You never did. Every species in this galaxy has the same potential we do. You just never developed it because we were doing everything for you. We held reality together, S. Oh, you didn't learn to do it yourselves. We prevented conflicts so you didn't learn to control your emotions. We were making you weak by being strong. He stepped forward. I stayed behind to teach you, to show you how to access your own abilities. Every sentient being can influence reality, can sense probability, can anchor dimensions. It's not magic. It's a natural ability that most species never develop because they never need to. But you need to now. Learn fast or die. Those are your options. The council chamber erupted in questions, in doubts, in fear. Mignot waited for silence. When it came, he said simply, "Who wants to learn first?" Outside, another rift was opening. Another monster was emerging. The human automated systems fought it, but they were failing faster now. Mignot felt it. He closed his eyes and reached out with senses the aliens couldn't perceive. He pushed, and reality pushed back, and the rift sealed. That's what you need to learn, Mignot said, opening his eyes. Now let's begin. We don't have much time. The first lesson was the hardest. Mignot gathered representatives from every major species in what used to be a human school on Earth. The classroom was simple, designed for human children, but now it held the galaxy's last hope. Ambassadors, generals, scientists, all sitting at desks, learning to do what they thought was impossible. Close your eyes, Mignot instructed. Feel the space around you. Not with your senses. With something deeper. Reality is not solid. It's flexible. Humans learned this millions of years ago. You can learn it now. Admiral Court tried. He closed his eyes and reached for something he had no name for. At first, nothing. Then faintly he felt it. A texture to space. A malleability. Like reality was water, and he was learning to swim. The sensation vanished when he grasped for it. Don't force it, Mignot said. You're not pushing reality. You're asking it. You're suggesting. Reality wants to be stable. Show it how. Days passed. Then weeks. Progress was slow. Some students learned faster than others. A Veltari named Kessa discovered she could sense probability branches. She couldn't change outcomes yet, but she could see possibilities. A Horthian commander named Grell learned to stabilize space around ships, preventing the physics glitches that had been plaguing travel. Small successes, but successes. Meanwhile, the crisis grew. More rifts opened. More conflicts erupted. The human systems were failing faster. Minho couldn't be everywhere. He could seal rifts, but 3 more would open while he worked. The galaxy needed more than one guardian. It needed thousands, millions. It needed everyone to wake up. Then something changed. A recorded message activated across all human systems. Not one recording. Thousands. Every human who had left behind a message, activating simultaneously. Teachers, scientists, soldiers, children, all speaking directly to the people who now lived in their homes, worked at their stations, studied their belongings. A researcher on Colony Prime heard the voice of Hai-Jin, the scientist whose lab she had been studying. "I left calculations for you," Hai-Jin's recording said. "Hidden in the equations you think don't work. They do work. But you need to provide the missing variable. That variable is you. Your will, your intention. Reality responds to consciousness. Add yourself to the equation and everything makes sense." The researcher tried it. She took Hai-Jin's incomplete engine design and instead of treating it as pure engineering, treated it as a collaboration between machine and mind. She focused on what she wanted the engine to do. The engine activated. It worked. For the first time, she understood. Human technology wasn't just technology. It was tools designed to teach, to guide others toward their own abilities. Across the galaxy, similar discoveries happened. A pilot struggling to navigate dangerous space heard the voice of a human named Yuna, who had been his teacher years ago. "You always had the skill," Yuna's recording said. "You just thought it was the ship's computer. It was you. It's always been you. The computer was just helping you believe in yourself. Now believe without it." The pilot tried. He flew through an asteroid field without instruments, using only instinct, feeling the paths through space, sensing the safe routes. He emerged unscratched and amazed. He had abilities he never knew existed. Human cities transformed. What had been memorials became training grounds. The meditation chambers, studied for so long, revealed their true purpose. They were amplifiers. They helped students feel the connection to reality more clearly. Species that had never meditated, never looked inward, now learned ancient human practices. And they found what humans had always known. Consciousness was not separate from reality. It was part of reality. And with practice, it could shape reality. Minho watched the progress from Station Helios. It wasn't fast enough. More rifts kept opening. More horrors kept emerging. But he saw hope. A Veltari team had successfully sealed a small rift without his help. A Horthian commander had calmed her aggressive troops using nothing but focused intention. A Korthan scientist had stabilized a collapsing star by convincing reality that it should hold together. Small miracles. But growing dot, then the greatest challenge came. The largest rift yet opened near Earth. Something massive pushed through. Not a creature. A consciousness. Old beyond measure. Malevolent beyond description. It had been sealed away since before Earth existed. Now it was free. It began pulling energy from stars, feeding, growing. It would consume the entire sector within days. Minho felt his power was not enough. He could slow it, but not stop it. This was what humans had been holding back. This was why they had stayed so long. He reached out through the human systems, sending a final message to everyone. This is it. This is why we stayed. This is what you need to face. I can't do it alone, but we can do it together. Every species, every mind. Unite your intention. Push back. Show this thing that you are guardians now. Across the galaxy, billions of minds heard the call. On thousands of worlds, in millions of ships, people stopped what they were doing. They closed their eyes. They reached for that subtle connection to reality they had been learning to feel. Separately, They were weak. Together, they were something else. Court felt it on Station Helios. A building pressure. A gathering of will. He added his own intention to it. So did Kessa. So did Grell. So did every student who had learned. So did people who had never trained, but heard the call and tried anyway. Consciousness linked to consciousness. Not telepathy. Something deeper. A shared purpose. A unified push against the darkness. The ancient horror felt it too. It screamed. It pushed back. Reality buckled. Stars flickered. Space cracked. But the pressure kept building. Billions of minds saying no. Billions of wills shaping reality. Denying the monster's existence. Telling space to seal. Telling dimensions to separate. Asking reality to be whole again. Minho guided them. Showed them how to focus. How to direct their power. He had been trained for millions of years. They had been training for weeks. But they had numbers. They had determination. They had potential that humans had known was always there. And slowly, impossibly, they won. The rift sealed. The horror was pushed back. Reality stabilized. The effort left everyone exhausted. But they had done it. Without humans? The galaxy had defended itself. In the aftermath, a final message played. A hologram of a human woman named Soman appeared across human space. She smiled warmly. If you're seeing this, you succeeded. You learned. You grew. You became what we always knew you could be. We're proud of you. We're still out there, Soman continued, fighting our battle. But we're not worried about you anymore. You don't need us. You never did. But you needed to believe that. Now you do. Continue learning. Continue growing. Teach your children what you've learned. Be the guardians your galaxy needs. We'll return someday, she said, when our task is complete. But when we return, it will be as equals. As friends. Not as protectors and protected. That's what we always wanted. A galaxy that could stand on its own. You're that galaxy now. The message ended with one final transmission. A voice that sounded old beyond age. This is Wujin. The last message. The final truth. Humans came to your galaxy not just to protect you. We came to teach you. To prepare you. Because the universe is bigger than you know. Darker than you imagine. And it needs guardians. We can't be everywhere. But together, all the species who learn what we learned, we can protect everything. That's the real purpose. Not humans saving everyone. Everyone saving everyone. Welcome to the true galactic community. Welcome to responsibility. Welcome to power. 500 years passed. The galaxy changed. Every species learned to access their inner abilities. Reality manipulation became a taught skill. Children grew up learning to sense probability, to stabilize space, to shape outcomes through intention. Wars became rare, not because conflict disappeared, but because people could feel each other's emotions, understand each other's fears, and choose compassion. The dimensional rifts still appeared sometimes. Ancient horrors still tested the seals. But now, trained guardians from every species stood ready. They sealed the rifts. They maintained reality. They did the work humans once did alone. On a station orbiting Earth, now a memorial world and training center, Admiral Court was very old. He taught students still. New generations learning the skills he had once thought impossible. He stood at an observation window, looking at stars when the sensors registered something. Ships approaching. Thousands of them. Designs nobody had seen in 500 years. Human ships. Returning. They came in peace. No weapons powered. broadcast signals in every language saying, "We're home. We completed our mission. How have you been?" The galaxy welcomed them, not as saviors, not as protectors, as family, as the teachers who had left so their students could learn. Humans walked through stations they had built, seeing them filled with thriving civilizations. They visited worlds they had protected, seeing them flourishing. They met the descendants of the people they had known, seeing them strong and capable. Minho, who had stayed behind to teach, met with human leaders who had returned. They learned, he told them. They became everything you hoped. A human named Jinnah, one of the returning expedition leaders, smiled. "We never doubted. That's why we could leave. We knew you had it in you. All of you." A celebration was held on Earth. Every species attended. Humans and aliens together, sharing stories of the 500 years apart. Humans spoke of the battle beyond the rim, the cosmic horror they had faced and defeated. Aliens spoke of their own growth, their own victories, their own evolution into guardians. What now? Someone asked, "Will you stay?" Jinnah looked at her fellow humans. They had discussed this. "We'll stay for a while. Rest, share knowledge, learn what you've discovered. But then we'll go again. Not to protect, to explore. There are other galaxies that need guidance, other species that need teachers. That's what humans do. We're not gardeners anymore. We're seeds. We plant ourselves, we teach, and we move on. But we'll always come back," another human added. "This is our first garden, our first students. We'll always come back to see how you're doing." Court, sitting among the crowd, understood. Humans had never wanted to be gods. They had wanted to be teachers. And the greatest lesson they taught was not how to fight monsters or seal rifts. It was that everyone has power. Everyone has potential. Everyone can be a guardian. The universe is dark and dangerous, but it's also full of beings who can light it up. You just have to believe in yourself. And sometimes you need someone else to believe in you first. The celebration continued through the night. Humans and aliens, teachers and students, all of them guardians now, all of them protecting the galaxy together, the way it was always meant to be.